Hi everyone, thanks for clicking on the video. I was just sitting here today after having just gotten off the phone with one of my girlfriends, and we were of course talking about the Roots movie. And what I realized is that some people are really losing their shit over this movie. What made me come on today is, when I was talking to my friend, we kind of got in a little lightweight argument about, why I would dare watch this, as she says, bullshit. And at first I thought she was calling it that, because this was a remake, I should say, of the first movie. But as she talked, I realized that it had nothing to do with the movie being remade. What it had to do with is just the telling of the story, period. And after I got off, because my friend was hot, she doesn't believe that, like others, that they should be making these slave movies. And, I told her my position that, I didn't see where there was a problem, and, I want to know my history and blah, blah, blah. So I get off the phone, trying to keep it peaceful, because, you don't want to lose your friend over, a damn movie. And I got to thinking about some of the things that she said, and what it made me realize is that as Black people, we really hate anything to do with Africa and the memory that we came here in the bottom of a ship. And after listening to her rave, for over an hour about how she's tired of negative representations of us on TV, I just, I guess I don't understand. Now, here's what I feel, and I'm just gonna keep it all the way real. We are the only race of people who don't want to claim our heritage, our true heritage, and that heritage originated in Africa. And I believe that the reason why is because during slavery, we were brainwashed to believe that everything that originated from Africa was bad, and that the people who came from there were savages and, uneducated and just subhuman, and just every other negative thing that, comes along with us coming from Africa. And what I also realize is that during slavery, to keep us enslaved and keep us, basically not rising up and fighting back, they had to create a system that made us feel that we were less than, not equal to. They separated us according to skin color. They separated us according to, house Negroes and field Negroes, and they broke down everything that made us who we are. And just listening to my friend today, I realized that they were so successful in making us hate where we originated from. They were very successful. You have blacks today who if you even bring up, Africa and that being the origin of where we came from, they don't want to hear it. They just, I think it's because it's so painful, to think that, we got our start here in this country as slaves, that they refuse to even acknowledge it. They don't want to talk about it. And this movie is just another reminder of that start. But what I was trying to tell my friend is we need to be proud of who we are. We need to, because if we're not, if we don't, look back to our past and where we originated from, then what they did to us, taking our identity away when we were slaves, then they succeeded. My friend was so angry. I was blown away, actually. She was so angry. And while I wanted to tell her, bitch, you need to calm it down, because let's face it, this is a movie. It is the telling of a true person, but you need to get a grip. She had literally blown her stack, and I got off the phone and I was like, oh my God. We have and I hate to say this, but we have a lot of self-hate as black people. I don't feel that way. And I'm wondering, is it because when I was growing up, I grew up with a grandfather that was as proud and prideful of who he was as Kunta Kinte. My grandfather would tell us stories about being one of the first black paratroopers and, boxing when he was in the military, and just how proud he was. And he told us to love ourselves, and he taught us the stories of, Africa and coming over here from Africa and how we got to be here, because we weren't learning it in school. I went to elementary in the 70s, and middle school in the 70s, and high school in the 80s, and I really don't remember there being, a true representation of slavery in our history books. And when this movie came out, literally this was the first time, and hear what I'm saying, this was the first time that we had ever seen, even though it was a Hollywood reenactment of what slavery was, this was the first time that we had seen a representation of what it could have been like to be a slave. So when they say that this riveted America, for us to watch this, those 8 nights back in the 70s, it was riveting. It was unbelievably riveting, because it is slavery, excuse me, is America's greatest shame. We look at other nations, other countries, the way that they treat their inhabitants, like a Saddam Hussein and we condemn them, and I say we as Americans, not black people. We condemn them. We're going over there to help them get free, and all of that bunk that we do. But when faced with America's own history and legacy, America has a blind eye. And as African Americans, we have a blind eye too. We don't want to remember it because it is painful. We don't want to lay claim to a people who allowed themselves to be enslaved. We don't want to be descendants from those people. But like I said in my video that I did on Roots, I see slavery as a horrible time in our existence here in America. But I also feel like through that, we became so strong. How could you not be proud to be from a people that were able to go through that and come out the other end? Literally, to come here in chains, and now we're sitting where we're sitting now. You're where you are, wherever you are in the country. You're working whatever job that you have here in this country. You're living in whatever home that you have in this country. A few hundred years ago, that would not have been possible. And it would not have been possible without those slaves fighting, without our parents in the civil rights era fighting. This is just really sad. It's really, really sad. As far as us hating ourselves, we have adopted everything that is European. We don't celebrate our beauty. I remember when I was younger, my grandfather, he used to tell me that my chocolate skin was so beautiful, and it was the creamiest chocolate that there was. And he would ruffle my hair and tell me that a woman's hair is her crowning glory. And he told me never to cut my hair and don't do all that stuff to it. And I grew up believing that, I guess through the family that I came from, that I was beautiful. I grew up believing that I was a beautiful chocolate black girl. That's just the way my grandfather and my parents made me feel. And the reason why I keep going back to my grandfather is because, when you sit around older people, they tell stories. And when you're listening, you can close your eyes and almost picture everything that they were saying. And my grandfather told me stories of how he fought to be respected as a man, and what it meant to him when he became one of the first black paratroopers. They were called the Triple Nickels, and if you ever read about them or want to know anything about them, just read about them. They were something truly special. So I grew up with a lot of pride in being black and understanding that everything about Africa wasn't bad. I mean, if you think about it, Africa is a continent that has, some of the most beautiful people in the world. They make it seem like every person from Africa is some horrible looking person, horrible animal or something. They show all these images on television of Africa with children starving and flies blowing all over them, and that is not the entirety of Africa. They show Ethiopia, and just the bad side of Africa. We never have watched a television show on prime time television that celebrated the beauty in Africa. You know, my first time really understanding that Africa was beautiful and that they live life just like we do is I worked at a job and I befriended a woman from Africa. Her name was Roxy. And Roxy came from Malawi. And to see Roxy, she actually looked like she was Puerto Rican. And I remember just sitting and talking with Roxy at lunch and her telling me the stories of what it was like to grow up in Africa, and it totally changed what I thought Africa was, what I had been brainwashed to believe that it was. And even prior to that, when I was in college, I dated for a brief time a young man that came from Africa. And I remember once we were out on the beach and the sun was like burning my skin and I wanted to get closer to some trees to get in the shade. And I remember him telling me, you know, I told him something like, I don't want to burn. I'm already dark enough, you know, that shit. And I remember him looking at me and he was like, you are beautiful. And then I was like, you know, okay, well, thank you. But then he went on and was like to say, you know, in my country, you would be considered a real beauty. And with your same thing my grandfather used to say with the chocolate skin and all of that. And at the time, I was about 19 years old. I didn't know what this man was talking about. I had no real depth at that age, you know. If he said I was cute, fine. You know, fine. But I did not understand what he meant. I remember him telling me that, you know, basically that America had brainwashed black people to believe that, you know, we weren't beautiful, and that, you know, we're trying to adopt their European standards of beauty. And at the time, I didn't understand it. But again, going back to my friend today and just our conversation, I realized that we have some deep-rooted problems in the African American community surrounding our own self-identity and what we actually think of ourselves as it pertains to Africa. It's bad enough that, you know, society tells us that everything that comes out of Africa is horrible, terrible, the worst scourges of the earth. But for us to truly believe it ourselves, they did their job back in slavery. The brainwashing of us, they succeeded. It's really, and you know what's weird? I've never been to Africa in my life. I never stepped foot in there. It's one of the places that I would love to go before I leave this earth. But I guess because of the way I was raised, I see Africa as the mythical motherland. I want to go there. I want to step on the soil that my ancestors came from. I want to walk around and close my eyes and imagine being taken from that place. You know, I just want to reconnect with where we came from. And I'm so sad that slavery has taken everything from us. Everything. Our sense of beauty. Like, you know, sometimes I'll go around family members, or because we have all different shades of family members and different shades in our family, and we have them with blonde hair and blue eyes. I actually have a cousin that has blonde hair and blue eyes. Both her parents are African Americans. Actually, my grandmother is her grandmother. My mother is her mother's sister. And they have keen features, you know, the smaller noses, the smaller lips. And it is sometimes growing up in a family where you have so many different shades and different hues of individual, you know, the more prominent African features are looked upon as not as beautiful. My broader nose and my fuller lips. But thanks to my grandfather, I never felt that. And now that my grandfather is gone, oh my God, I would love to sit down now that I understand why he set us down and made us all feel beautiful and told us all those stories. Grandfather used to say that the black woman is the most beautiful woman on the face of the earth. He used to say that you could have them any flavor of ice cream that you wanted, from the deepest chocolate to, you know, he was like the creamiest vanilla. And just, he would look down just at you and just with such pride in his family and just being a black man. And I think we've lost that. I think we've lost it. And this movie has awakened, you know, just such anger in some black people about them pulling off that wound, that scab of slavery, and exposing it yet again. But when I started the video, I talked about how other races of people, they are proud of who they are. Don't let what America has done to us take your pride of where you came from, where your people came from. Do your own research. Take the time to find out about Africa, not just what you heard. Look at the continent. Do you guys realize that Egypt is on the continent of Africa? Now, if we hear all these stories about all this, the Egyptian history and all of that stuff, so if you realize that Egypt is on the continent of Africa, then the Egyptians were African, okay? The Egyptians were people of color. So everything from Africa is not bad. What America has given us is propaganda. What America has done is brainwashed us. What America has done is taken our entire culture and our entire heritage and just whitewashed it and threw it away and told us it was terrible. And you know what? We believe it. We believe it. We don't even, some of us don't even want our kids to watch anything that shows where we came from. And like, we know you will never know where you're going unless you know where you came from. You can't, how can you have pride in yourself when you don't allow yourself to face all of who you are? Embrace everything, even the good and the bad, the negatives and the positives of who you are. I understand people want to see positive images, but we got some shit to work out. And like I said in my other video, when these movie makers make positive images of us, we don't go see the damn movies. You got Snoop sitting up talking about he wants to see, and you know what, people, I'm pissed. You got son of a bitches like Snoop sitting up talking about what he don't want to see and what he wants to see. Well, I say, Snoop, take some of your fucking money and go out and make some fucking movies that are positive. Get with Spike Lee. Give him some money to help him make some movies. Even when they try to make positive movies, do you know how hard it is for them to get money, funding for the movies? People talked about, why did they make this Roots? Why did they make this version? Why did they remake it? Have you ever thought that maybe they went to them with other projects and they shot them down? And because Roots was such a blockbuster hit back in the 70s, that when they went to them with the idea to remake it, they said, oh, well, it was a hit in the 70s. Let these black people make this one again. Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever thought that when these movies are being made, like Tyler Perry movies, and that these people, they can't get the backing that they want to make the serious movies, and we don't go see them when they make them. We will, and no shade against Tyler Perry, none. I respect him as a successful movie maker and his plays, but let's face it, some of his movies are not the greatest bit of critically acclaimed movies. Let's just face it. But they are so popular. He makes so much money. And who's going to see it? Is not white people, it's us. So when you sit up and talk about that you're tired of the Roots of the world and the Undergrounds and the this movie about Nat Turner that Nate Parker is going to be making, that's going to be coming out. Think about when the next positive black movie comes out, whether you will take your coins and go to the movies and support it. Think about when these black producers and directors are trying to find money to make movies with positive stories. Are you going to say, hey, here I am, I can send you $100, maybe $50. I don't have a lot, but take my $50 and add it to what you have and do the best you can. Are you going to do that? So just thinking of this conversation with my friend and her losing her shit over this damn movie, it has me saying, you know what, I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of, as I said in my other video, this beautiful chocolate skin that I'm wrapped in, that I have been dipped in by the gods. I am proud. I am proud of my African features. I am proud. My nose, my lips, my hair, my eyes. I'm proud. I'm proud. And I'm so proud of that African in my past who made that Middle Passage, because without that person, my family would not be here today. Now, I'm sure whoever my ancestor is that made the Middle Passage has family back in Africa that I belong to, that I'm descended from. But if I got off the plane in Africa and they said, start out in the direction of your family, I wouldn't know where to fucking go, which way to turn, because they took that from us. So when I watch Roots, I almost hunger for a bit of what was. The scenes in his village and the scenes with his mother and the scenes with the women dancing in the circle, and it was beautiful to me. It was a hint of what was it like to be in Africa? What was it to be in a place where your skin is the celebrated skin. I don't know if any of you have been to the Caribbean or the U.S. Virgin Islands, but be a chocolate girl over there. You know, you've come away feeling like, oh my God. Or even I've been to Italy before, and surprisingly, chocolateness, and being a woman of, I'll say this, being a woman of color over in Europe, you'd be surprised that the Italian men that were chasing me down the street, and I'm just an average looking black girl. Nothing special about me. But I was on the train, and when I tell you, I was on the Eurail coming back from Switzerland, going back to Milan, and when I tell you that everywhere I went, I was stopping traffic, and I just don't know if it was just that I was something different. But I see why Tina Turner's not coming back. Does she live over there in France? Because it's America that has told us that we're not beautiful, and that our homeland is and was worthless and terrible. I just don't know. I'm rattling here, but I just wanted to come on and say that I'm just sick of us not being proud of who we are. I'm just sick of it. So rather than continue on rambling, I will just get out of here, and I will look forward to the night number 3 of Roots 2016. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, and again, thank you for clicking on the video. And if you can find it in your soul to watch the movie, last night was really good. They didn't do the movie verbatim, because if you would have seen how Fiddler left this world, you would have been screaming at the television like I was. Okay, and I'm not even going to tell you how he left, because if you didn't watch it, you don't deserve to know how Fiddler left. You should have watched it. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. Have a great afternoon, folks. Bye-bye.